Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I wake up with so much on my mind, so much going on in my head. It was such a frustrating situation. I had all this, and I'm trying to figure out, Lord, do I want to do a therapy session? Lord, do I want to do working out? I got to get all these different things going on. I'm looking at my money situation. I'm like, Lord, I'm broke as I've been since I was a child. All of these different things I'm thinking about. Me. And my phone had been off overnight, which had me thinking about all these things because I wake up in the morning, my phone's off, so I got to wrestle with T-Mobile. I was going to tell y'all about the frustrations with that. I initially woke up thinking my phone was on, did a whole shower, did everything, made up my mind I was going to come here do videos just to find my phone off. It's a lot going on, right? But then I look at my phone and I see Bronny James news that he's in stable condition and went into cardiac arrest. And so now I realize that all that I was thinking about, all I was worried about, all I was considering, and everything that I needed to talk about, and all these different things that have to do with me and my own concerns, it took a backseat right away. And it's one of the rarest times in my life where I've ever had anything like that happen, where you're got so many different layers of what you're worried about. Even you wake up in the morning, you're immediately worried about money. You're immediately worried about your living situation. You're immediately worried about just people, other things that you got concerns, people that you love and stuff, how they're doing. But you don't check your phone. So it's like I got up, I'm like, Lord, I'm going to be intent on leaving my phone alone. I was telling my homegirl Kay that I agreed with her when she said she wanted to take some time away from social media, away from her phone, get away from the algorithm. And I've just been thinking, you know what, let me take some time away from it. And today was the morning where I did not look at the phone first to find out that it was cut off and to have to go through all the frustration that ultimately came my way later in the night, in the morning, which is actually early in the day because it's only 7:30 in the morning. I've been up since 6, but maybe even earlier than that. But nevertheless, that's the type of morning I've had, you guys, where I woke up stressed, really stressed, but intent on just attacking the problems, whatever they may be. And so, as I got up, got out the shower, did all those things, got over here, checked my phone, told myself I was either going to do a therapy session or talk about some basketball. And I'm like, but I don't have anything to consider in regards to basketball. So my mind is racing. I'm telling y'all, only to find my phone out. So I had to make the phone call to T-Mobile, and I'm frustrated about that. And I'll get into all of that, but it's just like only to find out that's a young fella, man. Now, mind you, we're a Laker family here. This is Laker Nation on our channel. And even though y'all have seen a lot of what goes on with me in regards to the therapy session, I think the good majority of the people that follow me because they know how diehard I am about my Laker team. And so it's one of those situations where you wake up in the morning and the last thing you want to see is that your guy King James' son is going through this situation, man. Now I'm thankful that he's in stable condition. I didn't read anything, didn't look at anything, didn't go into the news because at this point I'd rather not see the write-ups, hear what they're gonna go and try to ramble about in regards to this. I'd rather not look at the comments and whatever's gonna be put. I'm good. I saw the headline, that's all I needed. And so I want people to understand that we have a compassion here for not only the team, but for King James's family as well. I talk about the list of people that I pray for, and we've talked about how many people are on that list and how many various different celebrities and various different people in my family, people that I've come across with, co-workers I've come across with along the way, childhood friends, all these different people that I've known. I've kind of compiled them up over time and put them into a list that I pray for every day. And to a point, I've been a little lazy, not necessarily saying the names as of late, but I, generally try to recite all of them in my daily prayers. And the James gang is how I phrase it in regards to LeBron. I pray for him and his family. So Bron is encompassed in this entire family, the whole gang. And so for me, you wake up this morning, you realize, yo, these are people we pray for. These are people that I follow on the channel. These are people that may even follow me. You may even have a burner account that follows myself, or have heard of me, or seen something I did, or you know what I mean. At the very least, would otherwise appreciate that I have a passion for what it is that Pops does. And so for me, it's like, yo, I'm praying for y'all. That kind of goes without saying, just in general. But I'm thankful that he's alright. Don't know these people. You know what I'm saying? Don't assume that they would care nothing about me, but we care a great deal about young Bronny, and we'll continue to pray for him. And very happy that he's pushing forward. He's a healthy young fella. I don't know how this happened. A lot of people are gonna say vaccine. You know they're gonna say that. I'm just gonna let people know, if they don't say that, I'm not putting that out there, but I expect that's gonna be the first thing people are gonna say. This is the first thing anybody says in regards to heart situations. I don't know, man. I just hope the young fella continues to be able to have his career, man. That's the most important thing. They usually want to dock you for stuff like this, and you know that's just how this goes. He's trying to get his draft stock going up. You know, now his career's in jeopardy, let alone draft stock, and so I worry about what the kid would worry about as well, and how this is gonna manage his situation. But man, first of all, his health needs to be 100% to even consider life in general, let alone basketball or athletics. It's layers of different concerns to have. And you know, I am not a father, but I am LeBron's age, and that would be how that goes if I were to have a normal life in regards to that. I think what comes to mind is just lending myself there as somebody who is that age, who's been on this earth this long. You know, there's a certain solidarity that comes with somebody being born the same year as you, and just understanding just how long they've been involved in whatever it is that they've been involved in, and how their life's course can go. And you just don't want to see people go through the hardships that I see in this headline here at all. Whether a person's got it all or don't have it all in terms of life, you know, if they're rich as Baron or as poor as me, certain things you just don't want to see people go through. And the concern of what they woke up with this morning is tough. You know, what I'm wondering is how they were able to keep it out the media. How were they able to keep that out of the media? Because the news hit it this morning. For certain, that news hit this morning. And they said this happened yesterday. So the fact they were able to keep this quiet for 12 hours is really interesting to me. That's quite interesting. And I'm sure we'll find out more as we read. But the word was stable. I'm prayerful that will improve to good immediately. And so that's what I wanted to come here and say, man. All of my problems, everything I was worried about, how I managed to have to call T-Mobile even though I set up a payment arrangement that was supposed to trigger yesterday, and the money hadn't gotten there. You know how that goes. It's always some en-route nonsense with me. But that's what happened. That is exactly what happened. So I set up the ability to pay that amount this morning, and they didn't turn the service back on. So I had to call somebody to have her do so. They wanted me to set up a payment arrangement for the next month in order to trigger that. Of course, that payment arrangement costs more, so that's their way of extorting more money out of you. These are the things they do, man. It's just, you know, that's what I came here to talk about and vent about. But when you hear what goes on in real world situations, you understand your problem ain't a problem at all. Even if you do have big problems, like I actually do, with the money thing and all of this, it looks like things are going to get worse before they get better if I don't get approved for GR and whatever else I've applied for. It gets to a point where it's like, yeah, but you still have to pray for somebody else, man. Because every day you hear about somebody going through something, and I just happen to be going through what I'm going through. It's just my story, you know. Um, but I don't know that it leaves me exempt to consider other people's problems. And I think a lot of times the presence of money and the overall agreement of what it can mean in terms of what you're worth in the world, value, so to speak, will make some feel like, well, he rich going through this, so, you know, whatever. And I think that for me, I don't allow my mind to ever even enter those places. That's not how I look at money at all. I see a human being. I see human beings. You know what I mean? When I look at everyone, whether they have a lot or don't have a lot, I kind of just see flesh and blood, you know, under the grace of God. And so when I see people suffering, I think the first thing that comes to mind is not whether or not they would deserve it or anything like that, or whether or not they have enough to make up for it in other areas or whatever I would perceive, but more so to say that from within my space, I can just lend solidarity and prayer to say, I hope that their healing can be present. I may not know what it is they're going through. I may not be able to attack my problems the way that they can attack theirs, but I can still see that they need something from on high that maybe needs to come from the prayers of others as well. So as I always say, pray for everybody and it'll land on me. And I too want to pray for everybody. And hopefully that'll land on Bronny and James gang, man, because you know, it's rough, man. It seems like everybody's going through something at all times. I just look around and say, if you're having a good day, embrace that good day. And you know what I'm saying, cherish every good moment, man, because it seems like hard times just continue to come. Man, the confusion in this world just continues to be present. And you know, I don't know where this is headed. As I was telling you guys at the beginning of the video, I was having a conversation with my homegirl about just not having the phone in our hands so much, unless you have full discipline over making sure that you're intaking things that are most beneficial to your mind, because really that's what it's about. It's about you first and the things that you would be drawn to when looking at that phone, and then from there putting yourself in a position to have it if you don't, you know what I mean, and showcasing to yourself content that will ultimately elevate yourself rather than just dulling out your senses like many of us will do if we overdo it. And so I think I've gotten to a point where I'm appreciative of the fact that I have these other outlets that I can use, but the fact that I have to use them in my phone becomes a thing that I wonder if there would be a better life if I just didn't have to all the time hold this device up to my face in order to get things done. Even though I appreciate it, it becomes a situation where the good and the bad are both in the same place. You know what I mean? So it's like you go towards stuff that's going to waste your time. You know what I mean? Like you may naturally do based on your conditioning and what your cultures may be, or you can discipline yourself to do things that may not necessarily be what you're conditioned for that will help you. And it's like, but how prone are we to do that when there's so much temptation all around, when it's so one click away from everything that you would actually want to go toward that may not necessarily be what's best. So what I try to, I guess, is incorporate an understanding of into my own thing is maybe I need to disconnect from both for a time every day, or even pick a day out of the week and disconnect entirely in order to recalibrate my own mind, so to speak, as to make sure that I'm choosing the right content. You know what I mean? Rather than staying in that content space and never exiting it. Because that's really one of those situations where it's like I find myself wasting time with the phone, even when I'm intent on doing good things, because the gram is going to be there. It's going to show me something I want to look at. You know, YouTube is one click away. I'm probably going to see something there, waste about 30 minutes over here. It's like a lot of stuff that can happen to where if I have a job to do in this phone, so to speak, if I got something to do, chances are it's going to be on me to make that discipline and the time necessary in place be real. And if you're not trained for that, If you weren't raised in a household where time management and prioritizing what needs to be done over what must be done is natural to you, now a lot of times you're not gonna use your phone properly, and probably will need to disconnect from it in order to get your mind right and do so. So that's where I'm at. I'm thinking there needs to be a reset, and it needs to be a regular occurrence. You know what I mean? And I do think that application of thought probably should be put into other things too. We need to continue to be conscious of what needs to be reset. You know, I feel the same way. I liken it to working out and having an injury. That's what I had, an elbow injury that's kept me down for about 4 days, 5 days. I haven't been able to really work out, as I was telling you in the last one. But if you allow yourself the rest necessary for the elbow to heal, you will also rest the rest of your body to reset your entire situation so that you can start anew and fresh, and will ultimately not be worn down in other areas that also too need rest. Unlike the elbow, which is clearly telling you if you don't stop, it's only going to further the injury. But you know, a little elbow injury like what I had is only going to keep you down for a couple of days. I think another injury like a knee or something like that wouldn't be the best example. But not to get off point. The point is you need to reset the entire body so that you can get to a point where not only the elbow is healed, but also too the rest of your body can be ready for a nice stretch run of long hard work, for which you will need to reset again at some point. Hopefully an injury won't trigger you into that rest. So that's how I look at that, and I look at this as well the same way. Just got to take breaks. No matter what it is you're doing, there has to be a pulsing of reset, recalibration. Even when we talk about basketball teams, you got to, rebuild. And sometimes to get everything back, get the fresh young talent on your team, all these different things have to be reset. And so that's really what the message is this morning. I think for myself, taking time to myself, meditation time is what this would be representative of when I would step away from the phone. I'm not necessarily saying that I'm somewhere in a corner, meditating literally, but more so to allow my mind to operate and function without whatever would be suggested for just a period of time. Even though it would disconnect me from the world, which is what this world tells you cannot be. For a time, it may be what's best in order to make better choices. And so that's what I think I want to start incorporating into my life, along with other things that we've been talking about over the course of these several years, but more so I think over the last 5 months. Planning better, incorporating more intent planning into my lifestyle. Just certain things that I just have not had incorporated into my life, And so that's what it's about, man. And I hope that people can see that this inward kind of pointing is really what I've ultimately been about these last few days, which is why I kind of hadn't wanted to do any therapy sessions, because a lot of what I've been thinking about is about me. But I think others can apply what it is that I'm doing as well in regards to this. And so, again, I want to circle back and just say prayers. Prayers should be sent out to everyone, man. Everybody who's going through anything of any kind, any health circumstances of any kind, man. We understand that Bronny's going through what he's going through right now, and so we're sending light his way, man. And all the anxious nature of the energy around the situation, may it be calm. That's what I tend to want to consider as well as the parents, the children around the situation, people who are really, really worried about Bronny and worried about who may be hurting in that situation. Those are the people that ultimately will need our prayers as well. And a lot of times when we're thinking about who's in the circumstance, their well-being of the people around them that they love the most caters as much to their well-being and their ability to fight through as much as anything else. Um, I really believe that. I think one of the things that I would want in a situation like that is for the people who are worried about me to not necessarily have as much worry in their heart as maybe would naturally be there. That would be my hope, you know what I mean? And so if they were in distress, I would imagine I would too be more so in distress. Uh, that energy would be present and felt. So that's really what it is, just that they be cool around the circumstance, whoever the loved ones would be, and trust that they would be given the best opportunity to be at peace by those institutions that may have us there. If I'm happen to be sick, you know what I mean? The hospital not giving no trouble. Essentially, what I'm trying to say. These are things that I've experienced in my life, one way or another. Whether we had really good experiences in hospitals, particularly my mother and her situation, or not so great, and with family members who um, spoken of how they weren't treated well in the hospital, or how their loved ones were not allowed into circumstance, weren't allowed into the rooms, or various different things like that, um, or even worse, unfortunately, as we know. So that's ultimately what I'm saying. I'd be prayerful that these hospitals and these institutions be kind to everybody involved, and of course do their jobs uh, to the best of their ability, and be treated well as well. All these things trickle down, making sure that they're treated well within their professional environments. And those are the type of things that we don't think about, um, or at least I can say that I don't think about. But it's all encompassed when you consider the betterment of intentions. When you want for someone who's maybe dealing with something health related. So this is what comes to mind, man. I let my mind run in regards to everything that I got going on. As I said, I've been in an introverted space. Haven't really wanted to give content to this camera as of late, just because I've been focused on other things. But I think it's also because things have just gotten really bad, and you really wanted to talk about it. A lot of times when things are bad for me, it's like I want to vent. But right now, I just kind of want to focus on other things that I love to do, just like I would focus on this during basketball season. It's like, okay, yeah, things are really bad, and I am having a hard time through some of it, but I'm having a great time as it pertains to sharing this art on Art Deviant, and these playlists, and listening to them and working out, trying to pay attention to my body all over the last couple of days. As you guys know, it ain't been happening, but even so, I'm ready to get back to it now. Just about 100% with the elbow. So these are the type of things. It's like I'm hopeful that by way of what it is I've applied for, that a lot of what it is that I'm most worried about can go away. You know what I mean? And that's really what it comes down to. If not, then I would need the help of family, or I need to find a way through my own brain to make my own money. And I think that what I've been doing these last 5 days has shown me that it's possible. That it's very possible through this art. And so that's what I'm saying to you guys, that first of all, if any of you are following me and you've been supporting that, thank you. I humbly say thank you. I have seen some humble returns in regards to the people who've checked out my art and have liked it on these various platforms. It's been a good thing for me. And I take myself seriously as an artist, but never ever think of myself as someone who's very talented in that area. So if you see anything that looks like garbage, I agree, but there's going to be a lot of stuff there that I'm very proud of, and that's what I'm here to tell you guys. I'm very thankful that not only the Lord has shown me that this is an outlet that I can do, but it's also something that others can kind of share and appreciate. And so I think that's what it's about in regards to sharing art, including this. So yeah, man, there's just so much on my mind, and I give you guys what it is 100%. And I just realize that my problems are not as big, even though they are deeply felt. and are heavy. Uh, there are levels and tiers in that I'm not the center of the universe, and you know that's one of those situations where I'm thankful for that. I'm not that I'm thankful that I am not the center of the universe, though I am. But that's not what I'm trying to convey. But I'm thankful that I'm aware of it. I'm thankful that that's something that I'm cognizant of, so that I can continue to strive to be useful to others while continuing to feel whatever it is I'm feeling. Strive to get better so that I can be less selfish in the future. And that part of why things have gotten so bad is because I hadn't conquered that in my own way. And so I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking very much forward to. And whatever happens after this, whether it's favorable or not, I think my faith has proven that it's the better predictor of circumstances than my skepticism or my doubt ever has been. And so that's what I hope to share with you guys, regardless of what it is that you can take from what I'm saying. Make that the words that stick with you, because at the end of the day, there's always going to be something to overcome, but that you've overcome so much should give you the understanding that you can once again overcome this. And you may be weary, you may be tired, you may have kept the baggage and the traumas from the old circumstances to where they've piled up, and now you're tired of those, just no different than you'd be worn down by circumstances. To the emotion of it can wear you down, but so can the experience provide you a strength that will help you carry that baggage and that weight and that fatigue. And so that's what I'll tell everybody who's tired and weary, that there was and will be more testimony coming of people who overcame that fatigue, who stood the test of time, who bared the burdens of their stresses and their circumstances and their responsibilities and their code, and they stuck to what it is that ultimately gave them the best path for them and their families, and what it is that meant the most to them. You take those testimonies, I take that testimony or those testimonies, and I move forward with my strength so that I can become one of those testimonies, so that you can too give the world a story of one who overcame, because those are the stories that keep us going. There's many who did not keep it going, so to speak, and I'm not saying that their quitting didn't give us a lot from which hurt, because it did, but their lives could have contributed to before they decided to exit. And so hopefully whatever it is that ultimately your life will be, you can leave enough in the moment to inspire. And so that's what I say to those who just could not bear. You may hurt with your story, but hopefully you did enough leading up to that story to give us more than just the idea that there was nothing more you could handle. And so those are not the stories we pay attention to, unfortunately. The ones we want to pay attention to are the ones that help us strive forward, because they are things we want to do, things that we want to accomplish. And so that's what I want to tell people. Keep fighting. I trust that Bronny's going to continue to keep fighting and pull through this situation, and that they'll get him the best care, of course, and that the worry that would be otherwise in place just simply won't be, and that faith will be in place instead. I see so many different examples of people trying to apply their faith and it working, and I just continue to understand that, in situations where people lose loved ones but appear strong, that faith is something that needs to be held up by the community around them. I look at a guy like DC Fly and I say, people need to continue to pray for him and with him, and continue to keep him up, ask him if he's doing good this day, because even though he's displayed so much strength, it takes a lot of strength to maintain that strength. Sometimes, just like we said, you get weary, wear down, and so that's what I would tell people. It takes strength to continue to empower the strength in people like that. It's not that they can be able to do that by themselves forever, especially when they're going through what it is that he's going through. And so that community, that togetherness, it needs to be there for those who appear strong and those who appear weak. And so that's what I want to say. It's just part of what's necessary. I was thinking about another concept. A good friend of mine, I think certain personalities, they need people close to them in order to feel like the relationship or the friendships are valid. And I think that's a normal human trait. I just don't think that I share it, honestly. But the cognizance that I need to acknowledge other people's emotions and feelings and things that they want in order to display the love that otherwise I feel is something that you have to do. As a human being, you have to take other people's levels of sensitivity if you care to not be a villain in their life, so to speak, and try to meet them halfway if you can't do everything it is they're asking you to do, if you want to value that friendship or what have you. And for me, it's like I'm used to being alone. You know what I mean? I'm comfortable being alone. All the friendships, family, everybody, the life that I've lived, they see me once in a while. And so that's just what I've grown accustomed to day in and day out throughout the course of my entire life. And so it's like, for a lot of my friends, like, they need more of me than they've been used to seeing. And I think as I grow less selfish, more cognizant that selfishness isn't something I want, I realize that I haven't gone halfway with a lot of my friends to ensure that whatever it is that they would need for the friendship to feel right for them is in place. And a lot of times I just wrote that off for a number of reasons that gave myself passes. But at the end of the day, if I want to be a good person, we got to figure out, as we've mentioned, intellectually how best to be that. You just can't have good intentions. You got to have good impact. And that's something that somebody wrote a few days ago that I was able to pick up. Actual good content within the phone, substance. Found it, and that's what I kept with me. It's like, you can't just have good intentions. And impact, it needs to be felt. In fact, I think it was somebody on the list that actually posted that, ironically enough. But that's how God uses people on that list through my life. It's a lot of times, some of the most impactful stuff will come by way of their lives. No different than the importance of me understanding I'm not the center of the universe and my problems. When I see a prayer one go through what they're going through this morning over there with the James gang. So we ain't never getting too far away from that. But at the same time, that's what the Lord is doing. He's using those who I pray for to impact my life in various ways. And so in this one, that saying is with me, and I'll keep it. And I think you should as well. The impact is much more telling in regards to whether or not people can receive you than maybe what your intentions may ultimately be beforehand. Intentions only work if they're executed properly. And because of it, we need to be intellectually on top of how best to be considerate, not just thinking those intentions are going to work it out as we apply them. Whatever we believe, people think this is what most. It's like the understanding of different cultures when you go to different places. Middle finger over here means obviously F you. Middle finger somewhere else may mean something entirely different. And so you got to be able to adjust to people's feelings as it pertains to what offends them from place to place. And if you can't adjust, you're likely going to find yourself getting in fights either way. So these are the type of things that we just come to understand in life, and this is no different. And so my intention is not to offend you, but if I'm not pressing the right buttons, you're probably still going to be offended. So I need to learn what the buttons are. If I want to offend you, I can press them. If not, then at least I'm not stumbling onto them, accidentally slipping and touching those buttons. So this is what they're talking about, impact. And the impact of what you're doing, and the part of making sure that impact is right is aim. What are we aiming for? How are we doing things? The preparation. And so it takes smarts. It takes smarts to get things done the right way, to make it so that people appreciate what you've done. And a lot of times we stumble, and that's why forgiveness is so important, because mistakes are made. That sometimes intentions aren't properly displayed based on how they're impacted in the end. And sometimes it may not even be those people's fault how the impact comes. Maybe it took a third party to ruin that impact, or maybe we can't see them. But at the end of the day, it takes that forgiveness to help us be able to see all of that. And a lot of times these are the type of things that don't get considered throughout the course of the day. We're not taught how to think about things like this. but we are taught how to display revenge, how to want to get back. And the older I get, the more I realize it's more of an impact on that. And so this is where it takes me to another space of something I wanted to talk about. Of course, was Gilly, the kid. We talked about Wallow on this channel a couple times and how inspiring they are. And Gilly's oldest son, I believe it's his oldest, I'm not certain if it was his oldest, passed away. Cheese, shot on the streets. And excuse me as I drink water, man. I want to send condolences before I do, though, and prayers out to his family. And this is in respect. I really needed that water. It should have been drinking it a long time ago, but my mindset is to mention that, and because revenge is what came to mind. And I look at those guys, Gilly and Wallow, and they've been on a mission, a very positive, God-like mission to get people to turn away from anything that would otherwise keep them from being motivated. Every morning, Wallow's up telling people all different types of positive things, putting collages up, well thought up collages every day, as I'm sure many of us see, to try to provide motivation. And Gilly the same, they are a motivating team together, and they just made their big bag, just signed their deal, and then this took place. And because of it, it's a lot of negativity going around in regards to how people seeing it, and it's not being received in a way that would be compassionate and all of that. And that's just how it goes in 2023 troll world. But the point is, he lost his son after putting forth, and they lost their loved one because of some senselessness that really they talk against and speak against. And it's like from the world that they were from before they got to become these motivational, successful, people. You would think the first thing they're gonna do, especially since they just got paid, is whatever they need to do to get back going. And so that's what I just pray that's not where their heads go. I pray that's not where this ends up. I pray that they are not being taken into a space of great temptation by the enemy, because they've done such damage to the enemy by motivating every day. Individuals that probably ain't gonna get that motivation nowhere else. A lot of times people in their phones ain't getting nothing positive, but they see Gilly and Wallow telling them that substance they need. And this is the type of dark revenge situation that will drag them back into circumstances that they so desperately try to stay out of, especially Wallow. And so that's where, it becomes a situation where I was thankful to see what he had posted, talking about they remain to be steadfast on their mission. And I just pray he means that. I pray he means that, you know what I mean? And I pray he understands that people are watching for him not to mean that. Like literally. And so that's what I would tell him as well. Not only is it important that you do that you stay on that mission, but also that you understand that it is essential that you stay on that mission. And the temptation of this circumstance may in fact be in place to deter you from that mission. And that's where my soul truly goes. I'm like, I don't know what kind of conflict, what kind of circumstance, if it was mistaken, I don't know nothing. But I know the timing of this looks terrible. And what it is that they do, like I said, they wage war against the enemy. When you tell people who don't have a lot, who are told to continue to spin the block, to spend more time thinking about motivating themselves and others to be better, when you wage the war on the enemy in that way, the enemy is going to attack you in some dark ways to try to turn you back into something that the enemy can work with, and not something that's doing so much damage to the enemy. I know this. And so that's what I'm telling anybody who's listening. Let that be the energy you send toward those individuals if you know them. I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for that message, and I think they're doing something good out here. And I think that's exactly why they've went through this tragedy. I think that is a direct result to the good that they have waged in this world. And I really believe that the people that they're speaking to they need them to see it through the mission. And that's what I'm saying. And maybe the streets, would demand otherwise, right? Maybe what it is that they most respect and their reputation would demand otherwise. But I think at some point in time, when you live for something else, you gotta tell the streets that very thing and stand on it. No different than you would stand out there on whatever it is that needs to be stood on to survive, because that's the only thing that would otherwise be respected, is that a man stand on something. And if the stance is to convince others to not, then when it comes knocking on our door, it's important that we feel that just like we feel the pain. And that is something that I have no answer for. I don't know. All I know is that when you betray that, a lot of things that you don't intend to happen can happen. And those are the things we most are responsible for, not letting our intentions cause impact. You understand what I'm saying? When you start thinking about your revenge, all right, cool. Where the bullets gonna go though? When you hit him, is it gonna hit just him, or is it gonna accidentally hit someone else? And then therefore you're now guilty of the same thing that you were most intent on getting back at somebody else for. It never ends. When you start thinking about who has to go for you to make things right, it's like who has to go with somebody's daddy, somebody's mama's son, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say? The point is, the innocent will be affected by your get back every time. And those who invest in that, in our music and in our cultures and in various different things that we most respect, they understand that no different than a lot of people who engage in that. And you know what I mean? And it's high time that we don't just sit back on the sidelines with this energy going back and forth, waiting for the bullet to hit one of our kids, or waiting for the bullet to hit us. And it doesn't have to be a bullet, it don't have to be a shootout, but the point is to get back game is so prevalent right now. It's such a highly talked about thing that at this point I'm just wondering if it makes more sense for us to think about the greater good, even in regards to our own specific losses. If you can see the agenda is no different than any other agenda, then you understand it's in place just like any other agenda would be in place for a reason. And so I think that's something we need to consider. No different than me only having 10 minutes left before this thing cuts off in my face. But nevertheless, I want to get all of this in my video. I want to talk about just the various examples of black women that are just being displayed to us as liars at once. I didn't even get on that Carly. It's her name, Carly Russell. I didn't even talk about that on this channel. I skipped completely over that. I think it's very, very convenient that she happened to be yet another black lying person, coming out here telling us something that ain't true, making us look like we have no credibility. I don't know if this is just how it goes or if this is an agenda in place, but I do know she's not the only story where that is the case. It's a lot going on out here, man, and I just wonder if what it is we've been talking about on this channel about the middleman trying to tell the story about who we are, it's not in full-fledged force right now. Are we not seeing it? All the stuff we've been talking about in these therapy sessions, now that we've talked about these things, when you look at some of the stuff that's on your phone, you can see like they're molding the way that you're supposed to see someone like myself. Now, whatever my characteristics are, you got to apply those characteristics first. You know what I mean? It's like, hold up, why are they defined? Why are we continuing to allow folks to define the people around us by way of these very, very extreme examples of despicable behavior? You know what I'm saying? Are we not seeing enough examples of good people to know that there's a balance to that? Of course, there's going to be some people that don't have the greatest of morals. Of course, there's going to be some people who do. And those who do have a responsibility to teach the people who don't, by way of the example or by way of just your involvement in their lives. If you would dare do so. But the point is, if we just gonna sit up here and point fingers at one another, then we're playing into the hands of those who want us to point fingers at one another. And we need to start understanding that all of this stuff is controlling our perception of self and others, and that will control who we want to let through the gates that we keep. We need to understand how we're being controlled so we can stop being controlled by those who control those who want to control others. It is what it is. Our ambition allows us to be manipulated, and we need to stop, reset, meditate, step away from the phone for a couple seconds, and ultimately get to a point where we can see clearly instead of allowing these suggestions to actually define the thoughts that are swirling in our minds, making us anxious all the time, making us more likely to want to turn toward wasted time entities and mind, altering drugs that make us feel better about the bullcrap around us. Companies that enact slow burning psychological applications to your brain over time to get you to behave a certain way and to train you to pay them on time. I'm telling you all, they're making us crazy. It is what it is. They're literally trying to warp us into a frequency that works us into consuming consumers. A consumer that's being consumed by it. And that, my friends, is what I see there. So hopefully I was able to articulate that correctly. We're being eaten by this thing, is essentially what I'm saying, while we're consuming whatever it is that we're purchasing. And I want my freedom. I want my freedom from it. I want to be able to live my life the way I've been living it without worrying about how things are going to go. And it starts with an agreement amongst ourselves to start to suggest things against those suggestions that come our way. And so that's what I do with my voice. And hopefully, with about 300 therapy sessions where we've had conversations like this, about 40% of them, you understand that a lot of the stuff that we're seeing right now, we've already seen suggestions here that would suggest against a lot of this stuff before they even started it. And so that's why I encourage everybody to check it out. It ain't there just because I wanted to get stuff off my chest. It was there because it needed to be said against some of the stuff that's otherwise being done. And nobody's really talking like this about, at least not to my eardrums. So that's why I am. And that's really what I'm here to say there, man. So with 5 more minutes, I just want to once again ask everybody to pray for everybody, man. If you're a believer in something greater than yourself, and if not, the proof is in timing. For those who are looking for a proof of God, man, it's in the timing around those who believe. A lot of times you'll see them go through certain things at a certain time. Look at the clock. Look at the consistency of things. Just like I was saying in regards to companies and how they slow burn and use time as a means of enacting certain training methods of, you must pay us. Okay, well, we're going to coerce you into this, and then we'll split the payment, but you're going to have to pay more for the payment, but you can't get out of the payment if for some reason you're not doing this. And those type of applications of psychological crap that ultimately is meant to make you say, okay, I'm just too afraid. I'm just going to make sure. I don't care. I'll rob Peter to make sure I pay you, T-Mobile, I promise. Those type of things that are done over time is no different than how God works the same. He also will take time and work it in a way that works for you. So that when you look at the clock, you're like, oh my God, this came exactly when I needed it to. Oh, wow. And so what you got to do, the key to it all, in my humble opinion, is just to be able to believe in that God against those entities that otherwise want to put a slow burn to your mind. You got to believe in the God that would otherwise thwart that energy, no matter how it comes in, whatever stresses it may be. You send your energy and your frustrations to that energy that would otherwise allow you to believe in something greater than what it is that it's trying to apply toward you on this earth. And that's really what it is. The faith is stronger than the doubt. And then you'll find out, as I said earlier, that the faith is a better predictor than the doubt will ever be. And that is ultimately what you find when you believe. And so that's what I want to say, man. That's what I want to say to everybody. I use just about all my time. I was trying to cram all this stuff into there. The other suggestions that I'm seeing is closeted black gay males being exposed in jail-ish kind of thing, but it's meant to try to make us look a certain way, or make our community look at us being looked at a certain way, and have all these different things being looked at to just ultimately be bad energy. Bad energy. And that's really what it comes down to. They're always trying to apply bad energy to us in hopes that we will either use it to think less of ourselves, develop more of a complex for hating ourselves, ultimately looking at others, thinking that they hate us without actually asking questions about these things. We're supposed to assume that others are affected by this to such a degree to where we're supposed to be insecure about how we walk around every day because we think everybody thinks of us this way. It becomes a mind screw for real. And I think that that's what it's meant to be. It's supposed to make black people believe that they're lesser, and make others believe black people are lesser, and then make black people feel like they're the center of the universe. In feeling that way, thus becoming more self-centered and less welcoming, and then ultimately the energy also reflects upon us that we are that. So then it looks like we've been organically that the whole time, when actually that was been applied to us. And it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's psychological, man. It's smart. It's well thought out, and it's not hidden to my brain. I see it clearly, and the Lord made me that way. My name is BDF 44. Thank you all for watching.